We're going to be talking with David Jester today from his studio in Palm Springs. David, how are you doing?
I'm good, thanks. How are you?
I'm good.
How are you surviving the lockdown?
Well, you know, other than the madness which exists inside of my own head, because every time I walk out the door here, you know, the streets are filled with people and restaurants are open here. So in Mexico,
Really?
when you juxtapose that against the level of poverty here, it's not really something that most people can afford to do. They, you know, what they make in that day will feed them that day as well. So
Right.
you know, it's a struggle here. People can't. There's no government to bail us out. So people have to keep working, and it's kind of a, you know, it's a tenuous balance. I don't know what's going to happen here. So
It's terrifying.
yeah, it's a little terrifying. But in the midst of all that, I'm just trying to stay focused since I'm locked into my home, and my art studio is here, and you know, there's plenty of resources and ideals to work with. I'm trying to stay focused. Are you able to stay focused on your artwork during this?
I am. You know, I've been telling friends that art life is not that different from quarantine life.
Right.
Kind of like you're stuck in a studio and you don't see anybody anyway. So,
Very
but yeah,
true.
the only difference is that I'm actually working more. I was working 12 hours a day every day before, and now I'm working like 16.
Just because you're happy doing it and you have more time to do it.
I think part of it is that there's nowhere to go. I wouldn't be going
Right.
to the gym or anywhere anyways. And then part of it is like pretty morbid actually. It's like if something were to happen to me, I want to get a few more paintings out. So I'm like trying to get them out.
I actually said that to a friend yesterday. I'm like, you know, since we don't know what the outcome
Right.
is, I actually feel a lot of pressure at this moment to continue producing, because I'm like, there's so much I want to say and so much I want people to
Yeah.
see. So
Yeah, I actually made notes for if something happens to me, how I want all the files treated and how I want all the paintings treated. And there's like 4 paintings that people are paying installments on in here, and how to get them to those people and all that
right.
stuff. So.
Yeah, no, I started my Google document and connected a couple of people to it as well, just in case. We don't know.
You never know.
I'm from the Midwest. You know, I'm a pretty hopeful person. Even in the worst of situations, I'm like,
Yeah, me too.
pull up the, you know, straps and let's see what we can get done. And you went to college at Rutgers?
So grad school was Rutgers, undergrad was VCU, Richmond.
Okay.
And I was a sculpture major.
Oh, wow, I didn't know that.
Yeah, and so I always loved painting, but I figured I paint anyways. And what I loved about sculpture at the time in particular, in the sort of scholastic environment, was that things were moving more towards the idea of sculpture being all-inclusive. You know, you had Robert Gober, you had different people doing these installations that incorporated different elements like printmaking. I was a printmaker for 13 years at a press. But printmaking, sculpture, video, all that stuff could be sort of incorporated under the umbrella of installation. And when I went to Rutgers, my mentor was Jeffrey Hendricks, who was a Fluxus guy. And it was all about performance, and it was just a really good fit. So
that's great.
Sculpture major.
I love the work that you have up behind you.
Thanks. Yeah, that's all the coronavirus work.
And is your studio in your home, or do you have a separate space?
It's my home. So when I moved to Palm Springs, I moved in with another artist friend, who's Pico Bembo on Instagram. Does these like charcoal paintings.
Okay.
And I moved in because we decided we'd live together and we'd turn the living room into a big studio.
Nice.
So the bedroom is my storage, which is completely overrun right now.
Right.
And the living room is a studio, co-studio.
And the work that you're doing, where are the images sourced from? Are you taking underwater photos as well?
Yeah, I mean, so the series as a whole makes a larger narrative when combined together. And each image is sort of a chapter in the story. That's how I look at it. And so they all start out with concepts. So when I started, I had the first 16 planned. I knew exactly what I wanted. And so then based off of the sort of concepts, I booked the models. And then with the models, I do sort of, with some models, it's all underwater photography. And then a lot of models, it's some drawings and photography.
Mm-hmm.
And then from that, I create the drawings.
Mm-hmm.
Because you're underwater, so you can't get exactly what you want. So like, for instance, most of the hands and feet in the paintings are mine because, I can't direct the model underwater to
Right.
turn his foot a certain way or whatever.
The microphone doesn't work.
Yeah. So then it goes to drawings, and then from the drawings, it goes to the sort of contour drawing that I do to sort of get the base colors in that I want. And then I build it from there. So the heavy lifting is actually painting.
Are you doing the drawings to scale, or are you doing them just for reference?
Just for reference.
Okay.
Yeah, but it's funny because they really look like nothing when they start on the canvas, but it really is, all the work is in the painting side of things.
And is that terrifying for you? Because sometimes I get overwhelmed when I start seeing empty canvases around me or things not developed at a certain stage.
I don't like it. And it's funny. It's like, I was telling a friend, it's almost like when you look at something that's undone, it's like you hear white noise in your head. It's like, and then it gets quieter and quieter. And that's how I feel like something is done. I can look at it and it's just quiet.
That's a good description. Cause yesterday I was thinking, gosh, it's what a gift it is to have a studio to work in during a quarantine, because I don't know how people deal with what I would describe as white noise of just, the randomness of everything when you're just sitting alone, or, like I can't watch Netflix anymore. It just drives me absolutely crazy. Like I need to do something. So having everything here is a great way to release. But I have that moment in my work where I know that I need to get it beyond where it's at that moment. Otherwise the thread of it just gets lost to fear or anxiety or, what is this going to become? And there's that moment where I make a decision to move forward, and then I get the payout from the process. The white noise starts to fade away, the fear, How do you describe that or adjust to those sorts of situations in your studio?
So I think it's different for me because I was telling you before we started this, I was a producer for quite a while in the corporate world. And it was a great job for me because it taught me about sort of timelines, time management, time budgeting. So how I've used that in art, and the reason it sort of mitigates the anxiety for me, is that I have always 6 planned out, even if I'm only working on 3 or 4. There's 6, and so for me, that gives me comfort in knowing that it's a process, right? And so each week I plan out each day where I'm going to be, which painting I'm going to be on, what part of it I'm going to be on, and so and I think that that's one of the problems for most folks during this sort of quarantine period, is that there's no structure.
Right.
But with that sort of planning, it gives me structure because I have a goal of doing 30 paintings a year. It's just a sort of very logical, practical thing.
How long does there's a standardized size behind you. How long does a piece like that generally take you through the entire process?
So they take, they average about 120 to 150 hours a piece.
Okay.
I work 12 hours a day generally, except now I'm working more, but so it's like 2 weeks. It's because I have a bunch going at the same time. But
sure. Yeah. That's a pretty good timeline, and the quality of your work is quite beautiful. I'm
thank you.
Fascinated by the underwater, the metaphor of being underwater, and I'm curious from your perspective.
Oh yeah.
Where did it come from, and what?
that all started in grad school, actually, for me. But I recently did a post on Instagram. My grandparents had a watercolor I did when I was 12 years old.
Oh, wow.
And it was kind of a response to Hockney's paintings, the swimming pool, but the watercolor, and there was like a series of watercolors, if I remember correctly, were all focused on just the light waves and what they do in water. And it's a really sort of juvenile watercolor. But was interesting that single thing sparked this lifelong pursuit of water, I guess. But in grad school, though, I was doing installations. Mm-hmm. And so they were like 12 by 20 foot rooms that you would walk into. And all along the outer edges of the room were large murals that were 8 feet tall, mm-hmm. of people climbing out of a swimming pool. So, from horizon to horizon, it's a solid swimming pool with all these guys climbing out. And then this is just one piece I'm describing. And then the floor, I did like a water wash on linoleum tiles. And then I had text on them. So the idea was that the viewers entering this pool, looking at this other pool, but really they're in the same pool. And at that time was before gay rights. And so the objective of the work was to say, hey, look, we're all part of the same pool. We're sort of part of the same group of people. And I liked water because there's sort of a dual metaphor there with fluids, body fluids, sort of shared experiences kind of thing. But the new series, I started, I did the corporate job for years. And then about 3 years ago, I was like, that's it. I'm going back to art. I'm going to figure out how to make this work. And so the new series, the metaphors is still the sort of shared fluids, but there's also an element of a desire for purity, which is why there's pool cleaners in some of the paintings. Mm-hmm. And in those paintings with pool cleaners, there's, I think always, an HIV molecule is the design of the tiles that I did. And the new series started with that, and also started with this idea of the sort of fine line between taste and discrimination that I was seeing on the apps. But then as the series has continued, this almost 3 years now, it's evolved into more of a portrait of the community as a whole, and that's where I think that each painting is like a chapter in the story about how we present ourselves to each other, or how we treat each other in this environment. And probably talking too much, I know, but
no,
you're fine. I just want to say one more thing that I love about pools is I love the fact, so if the pool is the gay community and it's this world next to this other world, if you're outside the pool looking in, everything's distorted and gets really pulled apart. And the same works if you're inside looking out. So that I like the sort of reinforcement of this idea that we don't have a clear view of each other, the sort of straight world and the gay world.